Hey guys, welcome back. This is Lucid. We are going to be doing another national overview for one of Aether Nomad's nations, and yeah, this is for the nation Zune. So this is obviously a modded nation, and so thanks to Peter Wass for sponsoring this. This, if you recall, I've already done one mod nation review for Thalamantha, or however you say it. But it's basically like a crystal Amazon nation, which are like indies that they've kind of turned into a whole nation. This is kind of the same, except for Garnet Priestesses and Garnet Sorceresses. So we'll talk about them. It's a kind of cool imagining of a nation. The idea is basically you have this fire blood cult where there's no men allowed, and there's a powerful mechanic we'll discuss. Yeah, so like no men allowed, and there's this idea of kind of like blood, like organic perfection through cloning and things like that. So it's a little bit like Hive Mind mixed with Blood Nation mixed with Amazon Tribe, mixed with hate men. So. We're going to go through and talk about it. There's a ton of spells. I'm going to try to talk more about the pretenders, the different pretender chassis, and what they allow you to do. But I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there that I'm probably going to do a crappy job. So yeah, we'll go talk about it. So starting off, we have the Sacred Prostitute, who is blessed always. They don't need to bless themselves. And they have basically a 50% chance of getting Magic Pass. Now, I haven't actually gotten any of these yet. Let's actually get a few. So, I think they should be down here at the bottom. I've obviously been tinkering a lot with this nation, trying to figure everything out. Wait, did I not? Are they slow to recruit or something? There's another one. Okay, I guess I haven't gotten anyone with the random. Oh wait, no, this one has a fire random. So on the off chance you get a magic path, you get a research ability. They can seduce. Oh, let's go ahead and read the actual unit description. They have seduction. It doesn't say versus what, it would tell you in the mod inspector, but they're inept researchers. They reduce unrest, which actually is hilarious. So pretty useful for blood hunting. I think that we would have to check. Yeah, you're going to need a fort to get them. But honestly, spamming them out is not a horrible idea. They're sacred, so they have reduced upkeep. So they're pretty low upkeep. About 60% of them can do some kind of research, and some of them can blood hunt. As assassins, they're all going to be kind of useful. Like, they can make small elementals or something like that. The reduced upkeep is nice, and they start off being blessed, so you could potentially even kit them out to, assassinate people. So anyway, cool unit. It's using fort turns is kind of tricky, but it only takes one, so you could actually get 2 per fort. Getting 2 assassins per fort that are sacred and blessed is pretty sick, especially when they're seduction assassins, which means there's a chance to even steal the unit before even going to battle. They also have awe, which I don't know what kind of prostitute. I guess you could kind of be an awe of a naked prostitute. Who knows? So yeah, depending on your bless, this person actually could be pretty solid in combat. Anyway. Yeah. Definitely a powerful tool in the arsenal. So not to be overlooked. Stealthy. I mean, think about it, guys. Like, scout, you're paying like 4 times more than a scout. Yeah. What would you do with the ones that don't have any magic paths? They would be kind of shitty assassins. But a swarm of them big enough. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some item, you put one item on it, and it's like the single most efficient 5-gem item to put on one of these. Handful of acorns, I'm not sure. And then they become reasonably efficient assassins. Or like the one where they make skeletons. That combined with a decent bless. Hard to say, guys, but very powerful tool to have in your arsenal. A 1 commander point, very cheap, sacred assassin. We have the Garnet Commander, who has crappy leadership. They come with shock and fire resistance, lots of fire resistance. Patrol bonus 30. This actually is sick. For a 45 gold unit that can patrol for a strength of 30, basically you don't need troops. Like, this guy can solo patrol provinces. And nobody's going to have vision. You can kill scouts with these guys, like, very efficiently. Inspirational +2, so they can't lead many, but they have okay leadership abilities. Just, this is going to give them... Okay, it's +0. For some reason I was thinking that would be -1, but I don't know what the threshold for that is, but so it'll end up being +2. So, kind of legit. Affliction resistance 1, pretty nice. Not super meaningful, but decent gear. On to the sorceresses. We have the Garnet Priestess. Now, there's some spells that only a priestess can cast, and they're kind of cool. But, yeah, basically, it's the same thing back here. Like, you don't actually need many labs. Like, this doesn't need a lab. She doesn't need a lab. You can pop down a temple. Though, I will say, as we were talking about kind of like the pretender thing, labs are very expensive, but so avoiding labs and only kind of doing them where necessary and then relying on these guys as researchers is definitely a possibility. Yeah, labs are pretty expensive, but you have ways to avoid it, so I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. Or it's not terribly impactful. Then we have the Garnet Sorceress. This is going to be your basic Blood Hunter. Now, in terms of cost, they're a little bit cheaper than the Priestesses, but the Priestesses are going to have less upkeep. Their upkeep is going to be 50 a year, and these guys are probably going to be like 90, 85. So, if you hear peeping in the background, by the way, that's my chickens. I've like locked them 2 rooms away, but they like scream whenever I'm not there with them. They're just babies, and so they think I'm their mother. It's very funny. Anyway, so what can these guys do? Well, they can enter communions, like Sabbath communions, and do powerful fire and blood magic. They're reasonably cheap and spammable. They blood hunt, and then they can do like weak fire stuff on their own. Then we have the Griffin General, who is a priest, so they can buff, but kind of like poor buffing. They're a combat caster, and they get 2 randoms. So in all likelihood, you're going to get a mix of like a fire air or a blood air or whatever, but you'll get a mix of these. And then there's a chance you get 2 of each. So the doubles are probably the most useful. Though blood air is nice just for being able to enter into a communion and doing that, like doing air stuff. Yeah. So I mean, they're flying too, right? And you have these Griffin Writers too. So these are probably going to like lead your Griffins around, and you probably put your Griffins on guard commander, and they make pretty good little raiding squads or expansion parties. The magic paths, the air ones can cloud trapeze, and this is definitely a thuggable chassis. 44 HP is a lot, with high strength and mounted. So double air is super useful as thugs. Double fire, don't know. Double blood, yeah, I don't know. Have to think about it. Now, we have the Vestal Adept, and these guys now, Holy 2, so they can bless better. They're going to get a blood air random, a blood air random, and a blood air fire random, and then a slight chance of getting the same plus nature. So, it's going to be hard. You're only going to, so 1 and 3 will be fire 3. Most will have a pretty good mix of blood and air. But they're kind of, these are 2 commander points, and I think you can only get these in your capital. I've got another fort here. Yeah, oh no, you can get these everywhere. Okay. So these you can get everywhere. So this actually is it's expensive, but it's a pretty powerful blood, what do you call it? It's a pretty powerful mage. The Fire 3s are probably going to be the most useful, but you're going to have a fair number of Air 2s. Like, 1 and 4 will be Air 2 from just this part, and then you factor this in, and then you're going to have... It's probably like almost half are going to be Air 2 when you factor in the third randoms, or the third and fourth randoms. So, probably like 40% will be Air 2, which means they can Cloud Trap Peas and do things like Baratos can do, summon Fire Elemental, summon Air Elemental. Some of these are going to be Blood 3, like a small percentage, but a significant. Some are even going to be Air 3, which is pretty sick. So yeah, basically, I mean, these are all useful paths, and it's going to be pretty high. They're also Adept Crossbreeders, so you can... I think you get special crossbreeding things, too. We can check that out in a minute. And then finally, we have the High Vestal. These are super expensive, 570 gold. But they're Holy 3, Fire 3. And they have guaranteed to get 2 in Air or Blood, and they get 1 in Air or Blood. So you have basically like a 75% chance of getting a Blood from this, and then you have like when you factor this in, it's now like an 80% chance of getting Blood. And that actually turns out important, because there's ways to basically turn these guys into better units, where they're going to keep whatever their paths were, and they reduce all their upkeep. But Holy 3 on a nation that potentially can have a fair amount of sacreds is pretty nice. Now, if we come over here... So, okay. Aether Nomads nations are supremely complicated. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I'm going to do my best. I was going to do this like a month ago before I went on holiday, and then I didn't do it because I studied it for like 2 hours, and I still couldn't quite figure out the nation. So I've studied it more, and I think I figured it out well enough that I can give some thoughts. But I would not consider myself a master of this complicated animal. But let me summarize the mage lineup by saying, like, Blood, Fire, Air, very powerful. The other things you have very limited access to are nature. Like, you have very limited access to nature here. But a little bit goes a long way, because this, like, you can do Armor of Twisting Thorns and stuff because you have blood nature. So, yeah. You have cheap spammable assassins, and then you have a flying mage, priest commander, who can do some sick shit with raiding. Also very high HP and thuggable. Okay, now on to the units. So, we have the Garnet Soldier. So the Garnet Soldier carries a spear, otherwise you're basic heavy infantry. Most of the units have Wasteland Survival and Fire Resistance, which is super nice. But cheap as hell, 8 gold. 8 gold for what I would consider above average heavy infantry. So morale is not great, but aside from that, very, very solid. Like, you could totally use an expansion. Next we have the Garnet Archer. 10 gold now, but we get a short bow. What's important about this? Well, we are a nation that has very, very easy access to flaming arrows. In the mid-game, you have access to Rush of Strength, which means a little more damage on your short bows. You're also an air nation, so you can do Wind Guide. So this is definitely like an archer powerhouse nation. Fire resistance is nice. It means we can, if we get nature, we can easily do things like mass protection and not worry about it. And it also means we can do things like, you know, have like 300 Garnet Archers and do mass protection and then do Firestorm, which will cook everybody else while they're getting hit with arrows and a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah. Solid unit. Then we have the Garnet Fury. Now, this is kind of interesting. It's got a short sword and a hatchet, and it promotes into a sacred unit. And I've gone ahead and promoted a few, so we can check. They're ambidextrous, they're chaos recruitment, which means we get a rebate, basically, in turmoil. So if you recruit them in chaos, you basically are going to get 6 gold back, which means they're going to be a 10 gold unit. Which is not bad. And they also have chaos power. So there's a reason to go turmoil. But your units don't take a ton of resources, so then it's like, eh. And they're Berserk 3, which is really nice. The unit they turn into when they promote is, here we see, okay, these have all promoted. So they basically get Fear, they get Sacred, they have a hatchet, 2 hatchets and a kick. Their defense goes through the freaking roof. They get more HP. This is just a terror. This is really scary. They have to get 60 experience, which is a lot. So you have to figure out a way to keep these guys alive long enough to make that happen. Their defense is pretty good, but not great. And it's going to be kind of shitty once they go Berserk. I like killy stuff, though, and this is killy. The trick is, how do you keep these guys alive long enough to get them to promote? And I'm not sure you do. But if you figure out a way, the rewards are potentially extremely high. Like, let's say you find an Academy of War that gives 4 experience a turn. How many turns would it take to get all the way up to 60? Well, you get 1 base, I think, per turn. So let's say you get 5 a turn. Yeah, it's, I guess, a year? That's actually not bad. That's doable. Only if you find an Academy of War. Otherwise, you have to kind of win a lot of fights. The problem, too, like, these guys aren't the Thalathama, or however you say it, the Crystal Amazon ones. They had, like, javelins, or they were archers or something, so they could promote without potentially having to get into direct... I think they had javelins. So they could potentially... You could have swarms of them that would just throw a javelin or two, and then eventually they'll promote just from having been in the battle. These guys, it's going to be hard to keep out of combat. I think the trick to doing this, if you try, is doing high... Like, you have to basically get out Mass Protection and Fog Warriors. And if you do that, there's a good chance these guys are going to survive a lot of battles. Next, we have the Hoplite. These guys have very good protection, very good base stats. They're resistant to shock and fire, which is kind of sick. They're formation fighters, so you're going to get 4 per square. They have chaos power -1, so they like order. That, in and of itself... Now, this is going to make them really, really good in order. Like, their stats are going to become 17 defense, 16 attack. Like, these guys are going to be super legit in order. And they're affliction resistant, which is nice. I think these were affliction resistant too, which is also nice on a unit that can promote. So this is a really good vanilla troop. Like, having a troop this good is a disincentive from taking a bless. Then we have the Griffin Writer. 100 gold. Very expensive, but it's a flying sacred unit. And it's got 3 attacks. Though, yeah, and this light lance it can use each time. It's very freaking expensive. That's kind of the problem. Like, we can look at it during expansion, and it might be good to have one of these to get some hard to reach provinces. But God, they're fucking expensive. They don't take a lot of resources, which is nice. And you have limited recruitment. You can only get 3 a month, which is probably okay. Depending on the bless you take, that's probably enough. And then we have these Sacred Archers. I think they are cap only, though I could be wrong. Oh, the Griffin Riders are not cap only. That's kind of hilarious. So you can get these. They're expensive, though. I don't think you want to get these. I mean, like, for comparison, the Crystal Amazon Wind Rider people, they were like, I think 45 gold. 100 is just steep. But if you're in a war, like, you can easily come up with a bless where, like, this guy plus, like, 4 Griffins will just destroy everything. Everything. Like, they have 0 natural protection. They're fire resistant. Like, a Barkskin bless plus, like, Blood Surge. And you're looking at just destruction. Just destruction. And that, I mean, that's nothing. That's like a very, very cheap bless. I think Barkskin is definitely a bless to consider. for that reason. So anyway, we'll tinker around with it. But so we get these guys. So they have fire longbows. So it's basically going to do fire damage on top of hit. I don't know if this can be further enhanced by flaming arrows. I expect it could be. It's also very reasonably priced at 18 gold. Let's double check all these on the national overview, like the official national overview, because sometimes it will. Okay, yeah, can only be recruited in capital. The Griffin Writers can be recruited anywhere. This one you can actually recruit. Unrest is too high here, but basically any place where you have a province, you can recruit these, and they're kind of sick. I mean, they're like barbarian. They're like Bone Tribe. It's like every single indie province is Bone Tribe. They have chaos power. If you take order, though, you're kind of screwed. So I think the options are like either you go for like an order build with kind of like a minimal bless, and you rely on these guys for expansion, or you go for a sick bless and you use these guys for expansion. Potentially, you could try these guys out too. Fire longbow is pretty good, and then a magic weapon. Yeah. Now, the other thing is, we're going to go through, I think, most all of the blood. Like, if you don't understand the spells for this nation, like, look at all the blue. Okay, wait 1 second. Okay, look at all the blue spells. I've got debug mod turned on so you can see everything. Like, look how many blue spells there are. There are so many custom spells. I think I've cast all of them at least, or almost all of them at least once, so I kind of know what they are. But some things are things that already exist, like Awakened Darkvines already exist, but it's basically repriced or moved up in research so that you can do it, more easily. Yeah. So anyway, let's take a look. There's one thing we can do that I want to talk about first, which is this. So it's actually kind of low in research. It's enchantment 4. You get purebred Dracon Stud. Or no, fire. Okay, so we're going to have to read through this a little bit together. So using blood magic for her experiments, the caster breeds fire drakes and a purebred Dracon Stud and bind ones to service. Okay. Then we have this. With this ritual, purebred Dracon Stud will once again be put into service in the caster's province, which must be a wasteland or cave. In addition to attracting population of roughly 500 Amazons in the province, Cavernese, it will produce resources allowing the casting of fire drake breeding rituals and unlocking the recruitment of fiery salamanders, Draken Cavalry, Draken Knights, and the relatives of the fire drakes. So, okay, let's check and see if we can cast this. So, actually, I'm going to need... Okay, wait, what is... Can only be cast at purebred Dracon Stud, which I have here. So, okay, I gotta go. We gotta haul ass over here. Do I have some way to get her there quickly? Let's just have this guy go over here. I think I accidentally suicided that commander. Blood Lab. Let's get some more of these things that we're potentially going to need to cast, since I destroyed those items. Bloodthorn, where are you? Okay, I know we've got it. Here you are. Okay, we've got a lab. Dracon Knight. Holy shit, these guys are good. Holy shit. Okay. Well, we'll just cast it this way. So I think anybody can cast it. Fire Drake Breathing. Sea Dogs attacked. Okay, so... Oh, okay, so it's just getting a Fire Drake. I don't know why I thought it was more complicated than that. Why? Wait, why is it... 3 gems for 1 Fire Drake? I don't see why that's actually any good. So this looks to be kind of garbage. Now, maybe if you have Dragon Master or something, it becomes less garbage. And Drakefire, I mean, don't get me wrong, these guys are fine. Actually, they're pretty good. Narrow Beam, range 6, fair amount of damage. Your troops are all fire resistant. These guys are pretty good. I think I've got some in this army. Let's have these guys come back up, pick these guys up. Let's make another one. Then we'll look at them. But importantly, and the reason I was actually kind of like taking a detour to show you all this is just that you can actually recruit really cool stuff when you cast that spell. The basically when you make that sight. Yeah, we'll get to see the beam effect here. See, they get just mowed up by archers. That was falling fire, but there's the beam effect. You can imagine having just a few of these behind your line is going to do a tremendous amount of damage. So those guys actually are sick. So I take back what I said. But importantly, you get to recruit these guys, which are 50 gold now. They're not flying, but they've got a built-in firebrand, basically, with Fiery Breath. They've got 2 other attacks. Pretty high defense. They have Dark Vision. And, yeah, they're sacred, so they're going to get whatever your bliss is. So they're pretty damn good. Now, when you compare them to these guys... These are flying, which is a pretty damn big boon. They have 3 attacks, which is about the same, but one of these... So it's like more raw damage, but these guys have a fire AoE attack, which is pretty nice. But if they're resistant to fire, then this is going to be doing more damage. But they're half the price, and that's a big deal. They're half the price... In terms of, otherwise in terms of stats, like, these guys have not that great HP, and then when they die, what happens is, okay, so they automatically replace the rider, and the Griffin itself is going to be pretty sick. It's probably just going to have the bite in the claw, or bite in 2 claws or something, in the second form, and a bunch of HP. So... in order to train them, like, let's go liberate this real quick. Okay, so we can't train them right now. To train them, you have to have one of these. And then we'll go ahead and make that. Because I'm not totally sure if you can... Yeah, you have to make one of these first, and then once you have them, then you can train their little underlings. Whoops. Okay, so we got one here, and then once you have one of these in a province, you can start spamming these guys out, but you can only get 3 a month. Okay. So anyway, that's important, because you basically have access to a different kind of sacred, which is pretty sick. Like, this is a solid freaking unit. And they have Dark Vision. But that's basically... We've kind of talked about the units now. So now we really have to get into all of the spells. Which there's a lot to cover, and I honestly hardly know where to start. The first thing I think before we get into the spells is this is a very weird nation in that you basically get, let's pull it up in the national description because it's probably going to talk about it there, but basically you get like pop kill events that are going to happen semi-regularly. There's a way to get rid of it, and you build this, but basically if you build this, you get death 3. So there's a few ways, I think, to play this pop kill side of the nation. One of the things is that you have a national spell, which there's so much to talk about, guys. So you have a national spell, which is right here, Magical Cloning, and there's 3 different ways to cast it. One of the ways, if you have a Blood 1, Holy 3, you cast it, costs 10. If you have like a much better caster, they can do it for 5. Or if you have a super strong Blood Mage, they can do it for 5 too. So you basically cast it, it's only in a 1 province range, so you can basically do it any province adjacent to a fort. You cast it, it's going to give you 200 people a turn. Now, if you have Death 3, then what that is going to mean is, one second, let's do Blood Fecundity, which you get for cheap on this nation. Okay, so if you do okay, so basically you're going to get a pop growth of about let's say minus 0.5%. So if you're at 5,000 population, 1% of 5,000 is going to be 50. So you'll lose 50 people a turn in a 5,000 population province. Half of 1% is going to be like 25, which is not that many. So like Death 3, so I think this is how you play the nation. Because honestly, that's not very much. And now it'll obviously be a bigger number in a bigger province, but like even in a really big province, like 1,500, you'll be losing, max, what is it, like 1,000, yeah, you'll be losing like 75, I think, a month people, which is not nothing, but it's not a ton. And it could be my math is wrong there, but I think that's what you get with Death 3 and like 1,500, 75 a month. Which, after 60 turns, it's kind of a lot. But you have this ritual, which is Magical Cloning, which is going to give you 250 new population a month. 200 new. So even if it's a really big province, you're going to be gaining people significantly faster than they're dying with Death 3. And your Dominion can't go any lower than Death 3. So I think you have a few options. One option is you go Growth 3 and you cast Magical Cloning everywhere. And that will make up for the random pop kill events. In addition, you put up... Okay, you could also potentially do Altar at Burden, right, which will get rid of the pop kill events. But you take Death 3, but then you cast Blood Fecundity in places. So like through the use of Blood Fecundity, which increases growth, and through the use of whatever you call it, Magical Cloning, you basically can have a ton of population. Now, the way it works too is, like, let's say you cast it here. However many gems you put into it is going to determine how long it lasts. So, like, if you put 30 gems in on a 10 version, it's going to last for a long time. If the province changes hands, though, you're kind of in some trouble. So it does make it where, like, it's more expensive when you're getting raided. So I think that's an important kind of weakness of this, is, like, you need to maintain long-term ownership of your lands to avoid kind of that pitfall. I think the way I would play this is I would take Death 3, because you can't go lower than Death 3. Then you build the Altar of Burden, which is going to basically give you an additional Death 3, which you don't care about, but it's going to stop all of the pop kill. When you do that, I think you're going to be at, really, the way the game calculates it, you're going to be at like Death 6. So Blood Fecundity I don't think will do anything, but I could be wrong. But I don't think it will. So there's no point doing blood fecundity. You just do magical cloning everywhere. So I think that's how I would play it. Okay. So that's kind of the population dynamics, which I think are like the most important baseline thing to understand. I haven't played it enough where I really have a good sense of how much the pop kill is, like from the events, and like this one it's turned off so you can't tell, but I've been told that it's strong enough where if you don't do anything about it, like your population's going to get wiped out. But magical cloning is so freaking good that I don't see it as a negative, I see it as a positive. And like, sure, you have to get like sacrifice some blood slaves in order to do it, but really, like, to have, like, let's put this in context. Let's say you're in Death 3. It's a 5,000 population province. It's going to be losing 25 people a month, but you do magical cloning, you're going to be gaining 175 people a month. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that after a year, so after 12 turns, you're going to be at, let's see, 175 times 12, which is 2,000 more. So after a year, it'll be 7,000. Holy shit. That is a lot, guys. That is a ton. That means after 2 years, so like by turn, like presumably by turn 50, almost all of your empire is going to be like 8,000, because you can basically turn all of your provinces into high growth places even with Death 3. Now, if you want to go even more buck wild, you can basically do magical cloning. You take growth 3. You build this to get rid of the bad population events. You then cast blood fecundity in any place that like has a fort, and therefore, like, you put forts in all the provinces with a lot of population. You cast blood fecundity there. There you're going to be at growth 2. Plus, in addition to like whatever that is, you're going to be having, 200 people a month. So like, let's take our capital. Our capital is 45. Is that right? 45,000. So it's 45,000. Yeah, I guess that's right for being whatever turn we're in. So if we take that and we go by times 0.006, that means we're going to be getting 270 a month from blood fecundity, plus an additional... Yeah, so blood fecundity is like a way bigger deal, or growth scales are a way bigger deal on larger provinces. But this, like, plus 200 is a much bigger deal on smaller provinces. So basically what would happen if you take death and you're casting blood fecundity... I mean, if you're casting magical cloning everywhere, is you would, over time, you would kind of asymptotically approach the point at which your losses from death are equal to your gains from magical cloning, which is going to be around like 40,000 population, or 30,000. So anyway, basically the odds are like strongly stacked towards magical cloning. But if you want to, because once you get to like a very big size, blood fecundity is very, like, growth is very good, you could totally still go for growth. Like, growth is not a bad idea, but it's a kind of more of an investment. Whew, okay. So the other thing that I want to kind of just throw out there, and I feel like we've still barely even tapped on the nation, is like these guys, there's a spell, let's get one of them and cast it. So they can all cast this blood spell called Excarnation, and it's blood 8, so it's kind of high up there. But you can do the same thing basically with Twiceborn. So we'll talk about the Twiceborn version first. When a blood mage enchants her own body to protect herself from death, if the blood mage is slain, she's revived as a white mage in the same province where the ritual was cast, unless she's an Amazon of the Garnet tribe, or some servant to Zun, in which case her original body will be reformed out of enchanted blood. For the ritual to work, the province it was cast in must be in friendly hands when the blood mage dies. The spell does not work on pretender gods, undead, demons, or inanimates. So let's cast it real quick. Okay. And then let's go send her to die. Okay, she'll probably get an affliction, but that's okay. We're gonna deal with that. Wait, what the fuck? That is not how that's supposed to work. It's supposed to bring them back as something different, I was pretty sure. Let's read the description again. Twiceborn. Original body will be reformed. Oh, the original body. So I guess that is working as intended. But we've got, okay, Blood Puppet. So let's try it here. Let's make her a Blood Puppet. And we'll make sure we know how this works. I've tinkered around with the Excarnation one, but this one. Okay. So yeah, the Blood Puppet is keeping them as the same chassis, which is a bit odd, because I was under the impression it worked differently. Okay, let's take a quick look. Yeah, it does not appear to be any different. It appears to be the same chassis. So we'll do real quick. So this is what happens if we do the Excarnation one, which is... We haven't even talked about what happens to men yet, which is crazy. Okay, where did I find you? Okay, we'll just do you. So here's Excarnation. So the way this works, this is kind of high up there. So this is no longer something you can do kind of easy at the beginning. But yeah, you basically cast this. You get turned into a different version of yourself. But basically now you have regeneration 50. You're fire resistant 22. You have damage reversal built in, which is pretty freaking sick. You have recuperation built in. And you have spirit sight. And your upkeep is gone. Now, I thought something like this happened if you did the other versions of it, but apparently I'm wrong. This really does make it seem like it is different. Yeah. Okay, it's not. Okay, so... but anyway, so Excarnation's pretty freaking cool, because you can basically take your really cool cap-only mages and turn them into... Like, let's just talk about how cool this commander is for a minute. This basically was a cap mage before. Your upkeep's gone. You can cloud trapeze all over the place. This is totally a heavy thug chassis. Like, very heavy thug chassis. Like, Mist Form, Phoenix Pyre, your I mean, get out of here. Like, especially late game, once you can do damage reversal. Or Blood Vengeance. I'm not sure. I think it will stack with that, but I'm not sure. There's two types, and I'm not sure which one these have. But, like, the damage reversal, I think, is different. I'm not sure. One of them, basically, you're gonna... Well, no, maybe it doesn't stack. Bet you it doesn't. Who knows? Anyway, it's a very good Magic Phase Thug Chassis. Let's go through and talk about... I want to do all the blood stuff first, because really this is a blood nation. So we have Orgy, which lets you get a Satyr Commander. So let's talk about how good that is. Now, the trick is getting nature, as we said, was kind of tricky. Like, you have to get really, really lucky on this one, or you can get semi-lucky on this one. But you could potentially have all of these ones who get the nature random casting Orgy. And we'll go ahead and do that. Now, why would we want to do that, you may ask? And it's because you get this Satyr, who can seduce, and he can also summon allies. And every month that you have a Satyr summoning allies, you are basically going to get 6 Meneids. And this will go on for forever. So basically you're a Meneiid superpower. And by the way, this is a level 0 spell. So you can start this, and it only costs 1 Blood Slave. So really the only cost is your mage turn. Yeah. If you luck your way into indies, which some exist that have the nature blood crosspath, then forget about it. You're going to have so many Meneids you won't even know what to do with. Next, we get Scapegoats, which gives you Seir, which are really freaking good, but we'll cast that. And you get them, like, right away without any research. Wait, who can cast this? Oh, it can only be cast in a wasteland. I think we have a wasteland somewhere over here. Okay, we're going to talk about the man thing. If you have a man, and the Debug Sensei is a man, you basically get this item, which gets forced on you the second you get it, which... Oh, wait, no, that's a Mask of Purpose. This is a different one. The Mask of Submission, which is going to make you a Communion Slave by default in battles. It's going to give you Magic -1, and it's going to give you Mute. So it's going to mute you, give you Magic -1. I don't know if it makes you a Communion Slave at the start, but yeah. You definitely can cast it with this on. So you could potentially think of some uses for like finding indie min mages, and when you recruit them, they get this, and then they can become a slave where they just are going to be fuel for your communion, but because you don't have to pay for it, this just shows up. So potentially some niche uses for the item itself, but in general, it means like vampires. Whoever you get that is not a female tag is going to get it. Now, you can get rid of it by getting a Mask of Purpose instead. To do that, you basically have to take this guy and you have to cast... where are you? Okay. There is a spell that will let you get rid of it. Yeah, Gift of Purpose or Gift of Purpose. So basically either 15 death gems if you're death. So this could potentially be like a Vampire Lord. You could get rid of... or Liches. You could potentially get rid of it. You probably have to give them items because they're going to start with this mask on. And then potentially Fire Mages, you could do it. I think they still get feeble-minded, but you have a way to get rid of it because basically you can do Gift of Health with this nation really easy and using Blood Slaves, which means that basically you're going to have Gift of Health up the whole time. And by the way, it's level 0, so you should be controlling Gift of Health the entire game. Though I don't think this will compete. I think this is independent of the other Gift of Health, so it's possible you could have 2 up. So that's obviously an extremely strong mechanic, which I'm just like offhandedly mentioning, which I think for like other nations would be like you would base a whole game strategy around that potentially. But anyway, so that's how you get rid of the masks. But wait, were we moving somebody over here? Okay, we did. So Scapegoats. Wait, why can't I? Oh, you need to be over here. Okay. So here, Seir, which you get blood 0, like... maybe some of these things actually got moved. You know, it probably got moved. Probably from having debug mod on. Probably from having debug mod on. We'll have to go... Should we go back and check? Let's do a quick check. Let's just make a new game. Let me turn debug mod off. This is going to be a long episode, guys. Okay, so let's check. Okay, these are the things you get 0. Orgy is level 1, so Orgy you still get right off the bat. But you still get Altar of Burden level 0. You still get all the magical cloning stuff level 0. Blood Fecundity you get kind of early. Rebirth from Blood. Excarnation... Blood Fecundity, am I missing it? Oh, Gift of Health is 7. Yeah, okay, so you get it later. But, I mean, even still, guys. Like, being able to control Gift of Health with Blood Slaves, so sick. Let's go back to our other thing. So I can't totally be a judge of what things are level 0 that we're going to get from just looking at the test game. The reason is it's just a weird interaction with debug mod and the mod itself. So, okay, we've talked about those. These, I don't know when we get. We don't get them at 0. We probably get them at the normal time, like Hinam or Baratos would get them. Altar of the Burden, this was important. I mentioned it in passing, but basically you cast this, and it's not terribly expensive. You just need a Blood 4 guy, which getting that can be a little tricky, but you can always empower. I mean, to get it... Oh, we got a patrol here. The Saviors cause unrest, too. Okay, sorry, unrest, not control yet. What the fuck is going on? You can have a good shot at Blood 3 with your main cat mage. Like, 1 and 4 will be Blood 3, or more than that. Like, 1 and 3 probably will be Blood 3-ish. And then you probably have to empower up to Blood 4. But if you do that, you get this, which is... Altar of Burden. So, you cast it in the capital, and it puts an end to... Okay, we'll read the whole thing. Due to the unnatural origin, the Garnet Amazons, and especially those of Zune, are cursed with a vital dependency on blood magic. Although there exist several ways to fulfill their needs, most are unpractical and require heavy infrastructure, sometimes resulting in grave incidents, which the red medicine hasn't been sufficiently distributed among the population. This extremely powerful blood ritual that can only be cast in the capital. The caster puts an end to the situation, declaring the health of the Amazons as a collective burden of the entire nation. As a result, the site of importance, the Altar of Burden, will be erected in Zune as a symbol for the sacred duty of all Amazons to share in their blood, as well as the pain of their sisters. For as long as the capital is not conquered by the enemy, this will entirely disable all bad national events related to blood magic dependency. Of which there's a lot. And this is something I don't fully understand. And yet, I think I'll probably do an episode after this where I test this nation out in an expansion, and I'm sure this will pop up. So we'll get a better sense of how this works. But it's going to give you Death 3. So anyway, that's kind of a pain in the ass. But like I said, if you took Death 3, then you don't have to worry about it. And I think this is a nation you totally can take Death 3. And then it's just a free way to get rid of bad sites. So that's that. Next, we already talked about Blood Puppet. Basically, if you die, you come back to life. Blood Fecundity, pretty sick. It's cheaper now, easier to cast. But cast this and all, unless you took Death 3 and did the burden thing, then it's probably a waste of gem or slaves. Magical cloning, also the shit. You need to be spamming that out. I think this is important to say. A lot of nations, blood slaves are a way for you to have cheap troops that don't cost upkeep. That's probably going to be true for us. But first and foremost, for this nation, blood slaves are a way to drive economy, which is like the opposite of how it normally is. So we need to blood hunt enough to have like rapidly growing population everywhere. Okay, we have Awakened Dark Vines, which is kind of cool. You get Dark Vines. They're kind of actually decent units. Twiceborn. I haven't cast it on anything that's not... Like, I wonder what happens if we cast it Twiceborn. Let's try this. We're going to cast Twiceborn with her. And we're going to suicide her, because she's not an Amazon, necessarily. Okay, yeah. Same chassis, doesn't change. So anyway, it's a way for you to use these guys in battle, like, especially if you have... like, if you're going to use them as teleporting thugs, you can just send them in, and if they die, you don't even really care. They just respawn. Okay, let's go back and keep looking at the list. Blood Fecundity, Dark Vines. Call Cur Lady. So you don't really have Death Blood, but if you get it, you basically are going to be able to get these ladies, which they're invisible, they're ethereal, and they have 3 curs at the start of battle. So obviously these are perfect candidates to give... they're not assassins, but they make just phenomenal assassins. So, and they come as commanders. So once you get one, they can mass produce. So if you just get Death Blood on your pretender, you can get another one, and then, yeah, the cycle goes on. That one's probably way down here. Did I just go right past it? Oh, here she is. So, yeah, anyway, pretty sick. Storm immune, cause unrest, invisible, which is a really sick trait. Yeah, I think they get, I forget, it's a random set of paths they get, but anyway. Pretty awesome and not very expensive. I think the real trick is you put a black heart on them and then they can assassinate people. So you can also get it just by having death, so you don't even need the death blood crosspath. None of these are going to cost upkeep either. So anyway, there's that. So anyway, that's Call Cur Lady. And then you have Excarnation, which is a way to basically really upgrade your... to really upgrade your high Vestals. And then you have Awaken Clone Sorceress. This can only be cast by a Prime Vessel. So this is basically a cheap way to get a Clone Sorceress if you have a Prime Vessel. If you don't, you can just use this other one, which is significantly higher in research and costs more. And I think, basically, like, anybody and their mother can cast the last one. with the caveat that it's actually really hard to cast because it takes a shit ton of blood. You have to be blood 8. So I made somebody down here who was blood 8. Who happened as it was to be a clone sorceress. What are you? You're 7? Okay, let's give you a little Bloodthorn real quick. And honestly, talking about some of these like in-game things, it kind of feels like not necessarily relevant to like learning the nation. Oh, shit. But, well, we don't even need to cast it. This is what you get. This is a clone sorceress, and so they're pretty sick. I wonder if we actually can cast it. How would we have to get to 8? Maybe just with empowering. Let's have her empower herself many times. Because I don't think you get, like, I don't think the paths on your original mage actually matter that much. But we'll test it in a second. We're at 6. Where are my slaves going? There's maybe some other mechanic I am not familiar with, because I don't know where all of my freaking slaves are going. Okay, so now we can cast it. Call Clone Sorceress. I don't try. So anyway, these are the paths on all of them. It's Nature 1, Blood 6, and like I said, it doesn't have anything, I don't think, to do with the paths, so the mage should cast it. But it's a super sick chassis. You've basically got regeneration 100%. So you can imagine doing some things which are going to give them more HP, and then they generate 2 blood slaves a month, which is pretty sick. They're also immortal, just because. And yeah, they start off with 2 blood vessels, or 6 blood vessels in the province with them. So yeah, they're pretty good. So we've kind of now gotten to the bottom. There's one other thing I haven't talked about, which is we have actually a few things. Okay, so we have Unleash Recandescent Evil, which basically gives you... I've got you here somewhere, buddy. Thought I had you here somewhere. Unless you got murdered. Oh no, we have him here. He's at the bottom. Okay, this guy. And it's basically a very good leader, very good undead leader, very good magic leader. He's Heretic 15, so he's going to destroy any Dominion you wanted to have. But if you're okay with that, he's going to... And I mean, it's a decent chassis all around. It's Reaper 5, so he's going to kill 5% of your population every month. And he's going to cause a lot of unrest. So basically, you would want to... Okay, and he summons a shit ton of demons. So I've had this guy up for a lot of turns, so he summoned a lot of demons. But basically, you get a random, like, Ritual of the Five Gates demon every month. I think you get about 2 per turn. So, anyway, if you have the... They're not that expensive either. Like, 65 blood slaves, which is basically going to give you, like, Ritual of the Five Gates. It's going to basically auto-cast that every 3 turns for twice the cost, so probably worth it. Yeah. So, pretty sick. But you'd want to put them in like a little province that's going to get completely destroyed. I have them sitting in the capital here because, you know, we don't really care at this in a test game. Okay. Now time to talk about some of the other things. And you can see there's obviously a ton. So we get Griffins, lots of varieties of Griffins. We get Scorpion Men, Mazichem, which are actually really good patrollers, Leogryphs, Cattle of the... Okay, let's do this properly if we're going to do it. Use this guy so we can see all of them. Okay, lots of Griffins, Leogryphs, Cattle of the Sun. I forgot what these are. They're probably like Buffalo. Lilot, which, that is cheap. Holy shit. A 5-gem flying stealthy assassin. Ooh, guys. It's so cheap. It's so cheap. I don't know how much they are in the base game, but they're not 5 gems. And what is this? Conjuration? So Conjuration 5, which is like a very common target anyway, now you have a good Nature Gem sync at Conjuration 5. Anointed of Fire, which... you're basically... I've already got a few of them. You're going to get one of these guys. Right, an Anointed of Fire. And it's a man, but when you get them, it automatically comes with a Mask of Purpose. And basically it's just a high fire mage, but no upkeep cost. So that's nice. And it gives you some earth access too. Then we've got... So I would say that's like totally worth 35 fire gems. We have the Cur Lady, which we talked about. All you need is Death 2, and that's going to break you into Death Blood. Call Elemental Bastard Princess. Can only be cast by the Forgotten Queen of Fire, and I think that's a Pretender chassis. So when we see that Queen of Forgotten Fire, or Forgotten Queen of Fire, we'll know what it's for. We have the Bind Elemental Bastard Princess, which I think anybody can cast this, though we'll check. Yeah. So this we can cast without having it as our Pretender. Okay, and that gives us this. Bastard Princess of Blood. 50% regen, Blood Fire, Blunt Pierce Resistance, Recuperation. Seems pretty legit to me. Yeah, I mean, this is Super Combatant chassis. 50% regen plus built-in Temper Flesh, basically, and recuperation. Yeah. Yeah, you don't need too much more. And I assume you can kind of keep getting them. This is something you probably don't need your god to get either. I'm pretty sure if you get lucky on paths that some of these can do it. Like, you have to get the air randoms, and then you probably have to put fire boosters on them, but you could probably do it. Is it worth 60 fire gems? Probably. Probably. Though you can get them way cheaper if you have, and at a lower research if you have the Forgotten Queen of Fire. So having this as your Pretender is going to give you some good options. Inner Sun, kind of shitty. We already talked about the Drake breeding, but this gives you those fire drakes. Well, it's not just... You basically can recruit these, the Salamanders, who have the Fire Bite, which are actually pretty good in particular situations. You also get these guys as commanders, who have a 40% chance of getting both of these, so like 80% of the time almost, not quite, you'll get one of each path. I mean, you'll get a path. And then these guys are like definitely thug material if you have a good bless. Especially the fire ones, they can throw up fire shield. But they've got very good base protection. They don't really need much. Honestly, just like a brand. I mean, they have built-in Drake Fire, so they actually have a built-in brand. Oh wait, this is a beam? Holy shit. Yeah, guys, this guy's really good. What do we need to recruit him? To recruit them... Only be recruited under the presence of a high Vestal. So let's Cloud Trapeze one over there, recruit one, and just see how they do. I mean, I'm going to just tell you from looking at it, I think these guys will work without any gear. You probably want to put a fort on top of the places where you have these guys recruiting from. What are they? Are they 3 recruitment points? Yeah. Okay, this one got fire and blood. Just see how the fire ones do. These guys actually might be candidates to do the blood twice-born thing. It's only blood 1. Why can't we cast it? We'll just run this guy around till he dies. Okay, he's now twice-borned. I'll just put him on fire shield. And then fire. If this guy kills this, this is sick, because you're basically talking about a 160 gold commander that can kill PD. Without any items. Like, 24 protection's really good. Yeah. I mean, you've got to spend some blood slaves, I guess, or fire gems or something just to get this site set up, but then you get a shit ton of these. Okay, well, let's see if we can kill him, and then we'll see what he looks like when he's twice-borned. He'll probably die there. Okay, we got him killed. So he's not a super heavy thug without any gear. Okay. Now lives as a Dracon Knight. So he just came back after that, so that's actually kind of hilarious. Talk about, like, low commitment. You just send this guy out to fight, and he dies, who cares? He comes back twice-born. Same guy, like nothing happened except he's got an affliction. Which, if you have Gift of Health up, you don't even care. Very funny. Okay, so we talked about the Drakon Stables. Just 25 fire gems. You've got Meditation Under the Sun. This, you take a Garnet Priestess and she casts it, and it makes her Holy 2 rather than Holy 1. It also is going to get rid of her upkeep, I believe. Yeah. So, pretty sick. If they're a Fire Garnet Priestess, which is pretty rare, but if you're making a lot of them, like this one is, but she's not blood, so she can't cast it. But, like, we can empower her in blood. And then we can cast Meditation Under the Sun. And now she's going to be Fire 2 and Holy 2. So there's a chance you get a Blood and Fire random on... It's like... It's not very likely. I think it's like 5%. And then they can do this without the empowerment. But honestly, if they're Fire... Okay, not really true. You could make the argument it's worth empowering a fire random to be able to cast this, and then you get basically an upkeep free Fire 2, Blood 1, Holy 2, and they have all, whereas most of the time they don't. So anyway, that's an option. That's that spell. I feel like I'm spending so much time just talking about all the new content, we can't really get into strategy. Meditation on a Stun. Gift of Purpose, that's how you get rid of masks for men. Paths of the Desert. I think this is a site searching on Wastelands, which we can probably cast. Okay, it didn't say anything. Let's actually read it, make sure that's what it does. I'm pretty sure that's what it does. Paths of the Desert. Okay, I don't think I know what this does. Since the release from enslavement and the exile at the hands of their Amazon tribes, often the Amazon Garnet tribes found asylum in the desert. Unlike real humans, they're naturally accustomed to the harsh climate. Many centuries have passed. Okay, so I guess if you it's an Earth teleportation spell. I'm not really sure the situation for when you use it, but you can do it. It's very long range. So basically you can just, if you have Earth mages, you can zap into the desert. Condemnation under the sun. This ritual can only be cast on a wasteland. That will also require the bearer to be located in the province. As a result, the mask bearer will be killed, and an average of 30 blood slaves will be obtained in exchange. As a side effect, heat scales will also be largely increased in the province. So basically, if I have this understood about right, like, we can make one of you guys. And then we can cast... We can move him here. And then if we cast Condemnation Under the Sun, we get Blood Slaves on him. So it's basically a way to turn fire gems into blood slaves. And that guy got deleted, and presumably we got some blood slaves from it. Here's Seer. We didn't really talk about it, but I cast it earlier. Yeah, they're legit. But yeah, it's another. Having Seer in your arsenal is a good reason. I think they're probably going to be one of your better. Let's talk about it more if I'm going to say that. They're going to be one of your better summons. They're no upkeep. They have 3 strong attacks. They're probably one of your better Bloodslave dumps once you have all of your kind of economy stuff taken care of which there's a lot. Okay, so we got 45 blood slaves. This guy was killed. And then it's heat 3 now. So think that's okay. But yeah, oh, so it's not quite. You're turning gold and you're turning fire gems into blood slaves. Could be worth it. Certainly if you have like Eternal Pyre up, it's a way to get your blood economy to the next level. So much to that, you know, it's, but the thing is, and I kind of want to say this at the beginning, but we're saying it at like the very end, is for one of, like, to balance one of these nations, all you have to do as a player is to find like one dominant strategy, like one thing you do it and it breaks the game. And then it's like, shit, the game is now broken. Some of these I'm not familiar with. Let's go through and read through this one. Metaphysical beings of incomprehensible mights. I have no idea what this does. Let's just cast it and find out. Okay, I probably should have read it. It's not a global enchantment. What is this it? I think that was what it was, but we'll cast another one just to make sure. Yeah, so that gives you these guys. A Fire 5, Holy 5. Holy shit. Holy shit, guys. Now, okay, it's hard to cast, because you basically have to be Fire 8, and Fire 8's hard to get to. But for 5 fire, you then get these guys who are holy 5. Holy shit. They spread Dominion. Holy shit. They spread Heat. They have Mind Slime. They're unsurroundable. Sight Vengeance. Invulnerability 25. All 7. These guys are good. They're stealthy. 3 very good base attacks. These guys are pretty damn solid. Yeah, and they start off blessed too, which is kind of hilarious. So yeah, I would say that's pretty good spell. I mean, it's expensive, it's hard pass. I don't think it's something that would, like, break the game. We're getting now to the end of the final spells. Finally, we have Sand Reading. So yeah, this is the Sight Searching spell. So basically, we do Sand Reading. Okay, and it Sight Searched everything. Presumably we could do it, I don't know, let's check again. Where we can cast it. Can only be cast on Wasteland, so if you have Earth access, you can Sight Search your Wastelands pretty easily for 1 Earth gem. If you have high Earth. Okay, so we've been through all the units, basically. I think we've gotten almost every one. Now, the question is, how do you use all of this craziness to try to win a game? And it's been an hour and 20 minutes. I think we're going to do some of that in the second episode. Like, I think we're going to do an expansion where I'm just going to play year 1 out. You can use these guys in order and say, yeah, I'm not really going to do the blessed thing. And just go, like, pure econ and use your blood slaves to drive up econ even more. And then just, like, focus economy super freaking hard. And you'll just have armies of these guys. You can have these little shortbow ladies. The Griffin Writers are expensive, so they're kind of divas. That's actually possibly what I would do, but you have very good Sacred Thugs too. So, like, maybe Light Imprison Rainbow Bless for, maybe not even for the Griffins so much as, like, for these guys, or for using these guys as thugs. These guys are solid thugs. Protection 12. What Bless would I take, though? I think we'll have to think more about that. Base Protection 0. These guys would be really good with the Fire Bless. These guys would be really good with a Barkskin Bless. God, Barkskin, I think you have to take. Yeah. Maybe even Barkskin Blood Bond. Be pretty good. If you want to go really crazy, you could do like Barkskin Blood Bond Berserk. Okay, so how do you win? Well, I think this nation can probably scale better than any other nation, just in the fact that it has magical cloning. So I think you could take magical cloning. Whether you go Death 3 or not, I think is up to you. Let's go ahead and just do like a basic build. We'll start kind of... I'll just bring up the pretenders here. There's a lot of different ones. So this is the Divine Heroine. We'll do these in a different episode, but I'll just give preliminary thoughts on... Here's another one that's kind of cool. The Arch Salamander. Then you've got one of my, everybody's favorite pretenders, Bahamut. The Source of Life. That just by default gets rid of all national bad events. So, yeah, that's a way to basically not have to go... That way you could be Growth 3 and cast your magical cloning, which if you're going to go hard eco... Like, let's say the hard eco, because I think that's actually probably the best way to play this. How would you do it? Of course, this has built-in... we'll go Imprisoned. Is there another thing here we could get that's not... just defense? I don't think Chillar is the play. Cold resistance. Heat 3. Growth 3. Yeah, and when these guys come online, you're basically going to be able to have, like, super high protection dudes without even having to worry. Like, all you need is a Holy 3, which you have plenty of. Turmoil or Order? I think if you're going this way, you probably want Order so you can get your Order power dudes. Drain, you could totally get by with Drain. Though you don't have great researchers, you're going to be using these guys. I'm sorry, these guys for researching. 9. Drain's going to be punishing, but you have lanterns and you can get imp familiars. You have a lot of things you need to use your blood slaves for. Blood nations don't mind misfortune as much. These guys, if you go this way, you're going to need a lot of resources. So maybe you don't go full over here on... Oh no, but Order you definitely want. Maybe that's enough? Something like this, I think, would probably be the build this might be the build we use. The other thing you could kind of do is like an Imprisoned Rainbow. And this you could do if you wanted to go with the... Oh god, there's so many different pretenders. So she can spam out Clone Sorceresses too, which is kind of sick. Yeah, so this pretender can make that Drakon site right away, which is kind of sick. But if we're doing Imprisoned Rainbow, that's not really an advantage. But like, you could definitely do a strategy around that. Like definitely, and like come up with the Bless just for the thugs. Which honestly, for those guys, probably like Reinvigoration and Regeneration. If you're going to use the Riders, you want Barkskin. This is pretty sick. 2 blood slaves a month. Let's say we took this Imprisoned. Let's check out the cost here. Oh, Prime Vessel, that's expensive as shit. Holy Jesus. 190? That's expensive too. What if we took like a shitty one? Okay, this guy at the beginning? That's kind of sick. That's this is the guy that auto summons undead. Kills his Dominion wherever he goes. I don't think I would take that, but that's pretty funny. Okay, Rainbow. How will we do a Rainbow? So let's do somebody... Okay, this is ridiculously expensive. Nature... Okay, wait. If we're going to do a Rainbow, what are the... Let's just figure out what we want real quick, and then we'll go ahead and call it an episode. Okay, so I think the way to play these guys is probably Blood Surge, because they've got a lot of attacks. If you go Imprisoned, you don't really want to mess around with Barkskin. Well, yeah, we can probably make a few. Actually, I think this will be another episode, because I think I want to do like a few different pretenders. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I know it's been a slog, but I think it'll all come together in the next episode where we do initial expansion. All right, cheers.